Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Traitors RHAPpy podcast. We're here today to talk about episode 2 of season 1 of Traitors Canada, and we finally have a murder, we have a banishment, we have other stuff to talk about, many things to talk about, and I'm very excited to be here. Of course, I am your host, the Archbishop of Assassination, the bishop of listen, it's Pooya and Scally. I'm ready. I'm back once again. I thought of some earlier, then I didn't write them down, but that's my bad. Anyway, we move on, and with me, of course, is someone who would 100% also cry in their $1 million if they had that much money. It is, of course, the one and only Brian Scally. Scally, how you doing?
Oh, hello, Pooya. I may not have $1 million, but I have brought my bus driver's license here in case anyone needs to see it. I'm excited to be back here talking about the Traitors Canada Season 2. Never have I felt like I had to wait so long for a second episode of the Traitors, and I'm very excited. I feel like the wait was worth it. It paid off.
Yeah, this formatting is nothing like what we've experienced before, combined with the fact that, first of all, we're going live right after, and then second, it's one episode a week. So last week, I feel like a lot of people felt like, I don't know if I'm all in yet. It didn't feel like it was great. It was because we didn't have any of the main mechanics of the game, namely a murder and a banishment to feed off of. And now we have that. We can break it down. We can talk about it. And some big drama and news dropping in here. First of all, let me hit y'all with the news of your own. Scally and I will be conducting exit interviews for this season. Very excited for this opportunity. So we're going to have a good time talking to both the murdered and banished contestants from this episode. So if you have any questions for them, feel free to either put it in the Patron group. I'm sure you know where to find that. Or, of course, you can @ myself and Scally on Twitter. I am on Twitter @ Pooyaism. Scally is on Twitter @ Brian_Scally. There we go. All right, Scally. I spoke about that as if people who are here don't already know the lowdown of who went home, but let's give the graphic to illuminate it all. So Erica, like we talked about in the recap previously, we talked about Erica being on the short list and Erica potentially going out because of the purple editing of it all, and we were right. Erica's gone.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I was glad Erica was here for, what was essentially the cast preview episode. But it was like a fun time to have her. Unfortunately, that edit did not indicate great things for her future. So to show up here and ultimately have our predictions proven true was very sad.
Yeah, I'm sad to see Erica go here. Obviously coming in as one of two people who have not only been on a reality show, but have won one. You knew this was always going to be a tough spot for someone to navigate. I feel like with the neighboring Traitors US, we have now seen the cast for season 2 confirmed. And I think some people have some worries about some people there as well. But in that season, as opposed to this one, there are a lot of heavy hitters. Here, it's a very small pool. So, of course, they were going to get looked at. And right out the gate, let's break this down, Scally. So, we obviously saw last week, we saw Kuzi, Erica, and Kevin talk about wanting to work together. And here, Erica gets let go. Kuzi is one of the traitors. I know that a lot of the discourse is and will continue to be, why would Kuzi let this happen? I have my thoughts, but what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I understand the thinking that, like, we've seen Erica do a really good job on another show of, like, flying under the radar, like, making people not so worried about her. And that's how she ultimately came into her first win, according to some people. So I understand the hesitation of that possibly being easy to replicate for Erica. I do think that she probably pops up as a little bit more of a target here. You can kind of point to, she's done it before, why is she not doing it again? And so that's where I think it's probably not the best move for Kuzi, but okay to not push against what other people think is the good move.
And that's my big thing. Is my assumption is, obviously when we saw the quote shortlist last week, there was Kevin, Erica, May, and Fierce. And I feel like there's only so much pushback you can do. If Kuzi's fully pushing back on 2 of the 4 on the short list, that's probably not a good look and probably would make those 2 think, oh, she's working with the 2 of them. We can't really trust her when it comes to those 2, so maybe we get rid of her sooner rather than later. Like, you want to seem complacent with your fellow traitors to a certain degree, especially when I would argue that she is probably the bigger personality of the 3 and potentially the most outspoken. You got to give them a little bit.
That's the thing is, and I feel like even when we came into this episode, when we revisit Traitors Tower, it's like, okay, so between Fierce, Erica, or May, it's like, oh, I guess we about Kevin now. Like, was that a play of just like, we're not even going to talk about that one? I think it makes sense. I think that if you're looking at these three, I agree with where they said like, who is most likely to put their own foot in their mouth in the future? One of whom may have already done so this episode. I think Erica is the least likely to do that in the future. So I get it from that point.
Yeah, and I really do feel like the bigger shock to me out the gate was, wow, it's between May and Erica for them on who they're playing. Because I thought it'd be between Erica and Kevin. I really did. So, and I want to know what they've seen in May that we haven't seen, because they keep implying that May is going to mess up or stumble. I'm like, so far so good with May. I don't know what y'all are seeing, but more to be peeled back in the future, I hope, and potentially.
Yeah, for sure. I think with May, I mean, we saw there's like one or two things that she's saying. I feel like she's almost giving away too much of her strategy sometimes, being like, well, we don't want to throw out names yet. It's like, okay, well, we don't have to tell people we're not doing that, May. Like, it's good to do that. Don't tell everyone you're doing that. So I could see maybe she's going to throw out a little bit too much in the future. But I think it also is just like, okay, maybe May will, maybe May won't, but Erica won't trip up is kind of the thinking.
I mean, you have $1 million to show for it. It's easy to see why that tiebreaker goes against Erica there. So Erica gets murdered. We see as much, but in the show, we must go through the breakfast of it all, Scally. It's the big part of the show. And I had my deep dive with Annabelle. Annabelle said, breakfast is a vibe. So I'm trusting. What did you think of the new, because this looked different. What did you think of this breakfast room they had?
So for me, breakfast is always where I want to be on this show. I feel like it looks so fun. And this one, I love the setup. I think it's cute. I think it's great. A little rushed for me. We are really just having everyone arrive all at once. Half of the table is filled up in the first arrival. And so that for me, I think like we're wasting a little bit of potential, and I hope it slows down in the future.
Yeah, we had 3 people coming in the first batch, Melissa B being one of them. And Melissa says, coming into breakfast with the first group, I have to play my role. I'm a faithful. I'm just happy to be alive and not be murdered. I thought that was a good confessional. And then the next batch was like 8 people. 8 people just walk on in.
Yeah, way too much. I feel like breakfast has so much potential for these like small groups to like get conversations in, like the car rides. And when we don't ultimately get that, I feel like we're wasting like an opportunity, unfortunately.
I agree. I feel like these small combos are really where we start seeing some connections. Obviously, in this episode, despite not having that, we do see some connections blooming, which we'll definitely get into. But I'm with you. Stagger them. Give me 2 or 3 at a time, tops. But 7, 8 people? Also, isn't that a nightmare to film with like everyone's trying to get their coffee in, they're trying to get their food in? Stagger them.
Yeah, and the thing is, okay, it might take too long, but you could do a little compilation of all the ones that don't matter. Just like this person came in, we're good. Moving on to the ones where they did say something, and so or where it was a surprise. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe we'll see it in the future. It's 1 episode so far, but for the first episode, they really did try and yada yada it. Honestly, maybe because we needed all the meat and potatoes out the gate. So who knows? Who knows? Yeah. The other big thing that happens here as they start coming in, staggering in, we do notice that Leroy and Rick are kind of a duo here, and we see them later on as well. It's a very interesting matchup between the two. Of course, Rick, aka Much Music's own Rick, and then Leroy from the Brigade, which I do not know this show, but I believe is a physical show, and Leroy is a physical specimen.
Yeah, I can't tell if they're pretending, because at one point they were like, oh, 8 of these people, and Leroy's a firefighter. So I don't know if they're pretending like he's never been on TV before or not. But at least at this point in the episode, Rick is saying that like Leroy's his boy. They like are on the same wavelength. Maybe a little bit of setup for later in the episode. But to this point, I like getting another duo flagged up.
Yeah, I did love, though, I will say they did highlight a couple of people coming in, mainly for me, Fierce coming in and saying, I don't think I got murdered because everybody loves me, which was a worry for us last week when Fierce said that. And we thought, I don't know, this might be a foreshadowing, but it was not. It was true. Everybody loves Fierce.
And if you don't, go by. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think that Fierce has a good read. I'm trusting her. I'm sure that everyone there loves her. Why would you not?
We see a little bit more from Melissa B again in this breakfast, and my heart from this point in the episode, Scally, was, okay, Melissa B's getting banished tonight. Like, this is too much Melissa B out the gate. Last week, we had Kevin saying, my grandma's in Alberta and knows that Melissa B is a traitor. Did you think that Melissa B was doing a good job?
No. A good job is strong. Like, was she doing a job? I'm not even sure. I feel like it was setting it up where I at least had some question, because last week I felt like Colin was definitely on the radar, and this episode did a good job of making me feel like maybe Melissa could also be an option to be banished. Maybe that name might come up a little bit later. So I was happy that they, were planting seeds even here.
It still feels to me that Melissa B is going to be the first traitor ousted. It's like, you don't give us all of that Melissa B at the first episode if we're not going to see that pay off. But for the moment, it looks like Melissa B has been able to calm and proceed with caution, which is good. The other person who's planning on proceeding with caution and calm is Kevin, who comes in last and, second to last, and says, was it last? It was last. Sorry, my bad. And he basically says, I'm shutting up now. You're not going to hear me speak at all moving forward, which obviously I think lends to the fact that everyone knows if you're the last one to come in, you are on the short list to go home.
Yeah, I think it was funny that Kevin was getting a little meta. Like, I'm gonna have no confessionals this episode, but that's on purpose. Don't worry about it. He's basically telling like us and the editors like how he's going to be portrayed. So I like that he is letting us in on his thoughts. It's very intentional, and so that's why Kevin was always going to be someone that I was really excited to watch here.
Yeah, and I do think that this is the correct move from him. You've been vocal. Time to be quiet a little bit. The other thing I wanted to say earlier that I forgot is that the murder of Erica can only help Kuzi and Kevin, in my opinion. If people were picking up on the fact that these three are connected or have been talking or are linking up, then one of them leaving is a good thing for them, because, like, yeah, why would you get rid of one of your own if you are a traitor?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think that it will make their threat level drop, but I always look at it as like these big moves, your threat level is steadily rising generally throughout the season. And when you make a move like this, like, sure, you're going to have a dip, but like, I want to wait until that dip, like, I really need it. And if your threat level is not yet super high, then that's where I worry, like, did you make the move too early? But I think it's fine for now. I don't think that there was, we burned too many bridges just yet.
Yeah, well, here's my thing is that if your threat level, because you're coming into the show and not all of you are reality stars, legends, veterans of games. So your threat level, if you're one of them, one of the 8, is already pretty high. So if now you throw in a little bit of taking out an Erica, your threat level dips and you might be on neutral level. And then your threat level can rise amongst the others. And if others are doing a lot of chaos, then we'll see how that goes. All right. So then Mary says, one of the 3 left is a traitor, in my opinion. The one of the 3 being Erica, May, and Kevin. How much do you lend to this potentially being an issue moving forward?
See, that's something I had planned on doing, is I wanted to track like who the last few were in, because that's something that we flagged up on other seasons of the Traitors, is this entrance order really can give a lot away. I think that they have done better in some of the more recent international seasons of having traitors come in towards the end, because ultimately, like, you can make the reveal before, like, the last 3 people come in, like, one is a traitor, and then, like, all right, that was the reveal, rush in the traitor, and then, like, we ultimately eulogize, the person goes home. But yeah, I think that some people have picked up that in the first 3 seasons, this could be big clues.
And maybe that's a move of why they brought 8 people in at the same time, because you can't think someone in there's bad if there's 8 of them. There's no one really to pinpoint. Hell, if this moves forward, I think the meta is you want to be in that group. Because how can you be suspect if you just walk in with 8 other people? Yeah,
I mean, regardless of if you're acting or not, I think people are just going to be less focused on your like reactions and the movements as an individual when you are walking in with a big group, rather than all eyes on you. You're the only person walking into the room, and every person is trying to read your body language.
One other confessional we got before they see that Erica is out. Crystal says that she thinks Mel B seems like a traitor, so she's not fully out in the clear. And they made sure to remind us, hey, Mel B, still eyes on her, so keep an eye on that. And then also, my favorite scene of breakfast was Gerline literally spilling the tea, and I don't mean giving out information, but spilling a drink, which was great.
Hopefully also foreshadowing of things to come, because I have faith in Gurleen.
I feel the same way as well. What did you think of Kareen's line of, yeah, Erica didn't survive?
Ooh, you know, it was a little basic, but it's still good. I feel like you got to do it.
It's an easy pun, but you got to take it. Kareen's serving looks, though, this season, Scally, might I add.
Oh my God. The square shoulder jacket. I was like, where is this from? I have a few people in my life that could use this jacket.
Well, not for you, but for someone else.
I mean, look, we'll just see on does the sizing run into men's? I don't know yet. We'll see.
Good question. Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out. So we immediately dive in now to one person's favorite segment, Peridium, my AU co-host. It's the challenge. We get the challenge a little early here, and I'm fine with it because we can yada yada through it quick and then get to the meat and potatoes. So this challenge was the Buried Alive challenge that we've seen on other iterations before, but a bit of a twist to it. So they had 6 people volunteer to go with Kareen. Little do they know they're going to get buried alive. And then they got split into three groups of 4. And I think they got to decide who was in what group. I think it didn't seem like it was a random draw.
Yeah, it did seem that way. I thought they were interestingly divided, where it's like one group is like mostly reality TV people, like one group is mostly like, you know, the guys that were running the heavy item in the last challenge. Most of them end up all together. So I was curious how they decided on these teams. But yeah, I think they decided themselves.
Yeah, so they are now split into 3 teams, and basically they're going to be scattered around, and they're going to get clues from the people in the coffins through a walkie-talkie to find the correct graves to dig out the people. And each person they dig out, they get $1,500 for a total of $9,000 if they're able to successfully get this done. Yada, 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 yada. 2 teams do it. They collect $6K. 1 team fumbles hard. Funny enough, this one team had 2 traitors on it.
Yeah, not good. Look, as someone who got lost in the woods literally today, I understand it. But it's not a good look. I feel like the Traitors Canada is all of a sudden introducing like compability as being important here. And so for that to be the first impression that we're really getting, not ideal for these traitors.
Yeah, not a good showing. I mean, obviously, we all joke and say this, that the challenges don't really matter all that much. It's mostly there so that these contestants can get a bit of a mental break from everything. And also, you know, they slap on the price on it. If you do this, you get this much money put in the bank. So they're 3,000 short. 100K is now 97K. But if this is like any other trader season, the last challenge will have this extra 3K waiting for them. So we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be just fine. It'll show up magically at the end somewhere.
Yeah. So the key thing we need to focus on outside of the challenges, like you said earlier, Scally, is this car ride to and from the challenges. This is where we get a lot of information. They get put, obviously, to go to the set for these things, they get put in these cars, and it's a random mishmash of people. It's not like it's planned out. Now, here's the thing. In the car that Rick is in, he is already planting seeds to get rid of Colin. He says that, I asked him when he came back from a smoke break, would you have kept Erica? Like, would you have murdered Erica? He's like, Erica would be the last person I would get out. And Rick found this to be suspicious.
Yeah, I mean, he says that basically it was inconsistent with what he had said the day before. He lets everyone know that Colin has actually said that if you have money, I don't want you winning this money. Like, you already have yours, don't take this one. So this one's mine. But anything that is going to be contradictory on the traitors is going to just get immediately jumped on. And so unfortunately for Colin, I feel like did not keep his story straight. I don't know if it was something that he like was trying to hide and thought that he was like being slick and like, oh, well, I'm not going to admit that this is someone that I would have liked to kill. But unfortunately, he does get caught up here.
I feel like saying literally the last person is too much on the other direction. Obviously, he's faithful, so he's not lying. But when you are now known as the poster child for people who would like use the money more, I could use the money way more, deserve to be there. Of course, the person who has won the most money that you can visibly see, because it was confirmed that she won $1 million, would be candidate number 1 to get smoked here.
Yeah, does make sense. It is going to be thrown at him a couple of times this episode. And when Colin gets confronted in the car at the beginning, on that first car ride, I don't love how he's like, well, just go ahead and vote me out and you'll find out then. Like, all right, well, I feel like you've already run out of arguments and it's the first car ride. Like, we really, like, come on, buddy, we got to get something better than this.
Yeah, I think maintaining your composure is huge in these games, whether it is Traitors, Mafia, Werewolf, Among Us, Goose Goose Duck, whatever. If you are immediately coming in with that energy of just get rid of me, then that's never great, because some people might still do it because they're like, well, if you're going to be a Stonewall that I can't even have conversation with because you're already saying I'm done, then leave, because you're not going to help out in any way anyway. And might as well, for my peace of mind, confirm whether or not you are bad or not.
It's hard because it's like, I feel like you don't have any better argument to make, so you're just defaulting to the only thing that you think you can do, and you're also not giving me any reason of why I should feel bad about doing this. Like, I don't have any hesitation because I don't feel bad for you. You're not trying to like appeal to me on a personal level, on a logical level. Like, all of them are clear in my mind now.
Yeah, and is this, we might be historians of the Traitors because mainly there's not that many seasons, and this is a new show from like a year and a half, 2 years ago. That being said, is this the first time that I can personally think of where this is a dialogue that's part of the season of, we want the money, like if the money could go to someone who really needs it, that's the better shout?
The first time that I can think of off the top of my head, I feel like it definitely played the biggest role to my memory. So maybe that's just why it hasn't come up before. But yeah, I do think this is a first for the Traitors.
I think the mix of reality TV, like people and civilians, really does add that, because they're coming in with some notoriety for sure. It's like Erica has the $1 million check, but Kevin won Big Brother Canada, which is like, what, 100K? Yes. And then also probably has poker winnings of big amounts, so who knows. So obviously you may be feeling the type of where like, I drive a bus, I can use this money, so maybe you keep me because otherwise it'd be mean to do so. It's definitely a strategy. I think if with the right finesse you could guilt people into not getting rid of you.
I think this was almost saying I want to go against the reality TV people without saying I want to go against the stunt casting. And that's the thing, is that while Kevin is going around recruiting all of the stunt casting people to work together, I think Colin was just too openly going against that. It wasn't like, let's get all of the newbies together. It was, let's target them. And that is going to obviously make people feel threatened by you.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a lot easier because obviously we saw this in Kevin's season, Big Brother Canada 5, when it was a half and half. It's a lot easier to get the half that is familiar with being on a show to work together over the half that are brand new and could be a little starstruck or just do not know each other enough to even begin a conversation like this. Or, they're still battling with, is it too soon? Should I say something? They're already working. They've got a whole thing going on. Because again, they know that you land, you run. Like literally, no one else is doing it. Might as well get ahead of it. So bit of a disadvantage there for Colin already.
I think it's easier to bond over something that you all have in common than the lack of something that you all have in common. And so where there's all these people who have been on shows before, it's like, oh, well, we've done this, we know what it's like. Whereas for everyone else, it's like, yeah, I also haven't done this, but like, why does that make me feel close to you at all? That doesn't matter. Right.
So meanwhile, we get back, and I'm going to try and use my mouse to do some pointer stuff here. We'll see how well that translates. Here's Rick. Here lies Rick the Temp. Rick the Temp, like we said, is working with Leroy. They're having a conversation about wanting to go all in on getting Colin banished here. And then the lovely Fierce walks into the room. Scally, let the people know how we ended up here and what went down.
Yeah, well, I think it was interesting first where even Leroy is saying basically that he's a little wary that Rick has his own agenda and he's pushing for what he wants. And so he's already on guard. Well, here comes Fierce. Fierce is like, I have an agenda and I need to push it now. So she comes in, lets everyone know that Colin has told Donna that she was a target for banishment and she should go and fix that. And now has actually gone and done the same thing with Dom. And why is he doing this? This is very suspicious.
Yeah, so this was the game of whispers that was played. Literally, Donna and Dom allegedly have been told the same thing by Colin. Hey, go clean up your game because it's a mess. People are talking about you. And this causes a whole kerfuffle and I think mainly because there's nothing else to go off of out the gate. One. And two, Colin's responses come off very defensive and guilty, no matter how you look at it. In the car right back, Colin's like, I'll swear on my children that it's not me. I don't even know if I can do that. So his, like you said, the whole like, get rid of me, vote me out, I swear on everything, it's not me. But then also when met with responses, his responses aren't with questions or accusations, his responses aren't calm. And I feel for him a little bit because obviously getting accused when you're good is frustrating, but you gotta keep your cool. And I feel like his voice, his cadence is not really cool, which escalates it, which makes, again, people's confirmation bias of, all right, it's him, he's bad. Because honestly, Scally, if anybody else had said this to anybody else, it's an innocent thing. They're looking out for you. They're being nice. It's a nice thing. It's a nice gesture.
And I mean, that's generally how it's going to take it, like going to be taken. But for Colin, I can't imagine. Like, he tries to do a nice thing and then he's immediately like, pushed back, put on the back foot, and has people coming at him. And I don't blame him where, like, if this happens on day one, it is hard to feel like this is not going to continue happening, especially against a group of people who have some experience in maybe, getting themselves out of these situations. So I understand why Colin feels a little defeated, probably at this point. But even when, they go ahead and they talk and it's revealed that Dom, no, actually, that didn't actually get said about him. Colin's very much like, well, I'm never doing this again and I'm not helping. It's like, well, then why are we keeping you?
And I want to put this out there. So Rick is wearing his blue attire from being part of the blue team, and he's wearing a fitted baseball cap. And I immediately thought he looked familiar. I think Rick the Temp is attempting to become the host of Ridiculousness Canada because he's got that Rob Deerdeck drip going on, and I couldn't unsee it. So Rick Deerdeck, do your thing. You got this. But let's get back to Fierce. So Fierce starts a whole fire here by bringing this up, and now they want to get to the bottom of it. Now they're trying to figure out what is going on, what was said, and it really goes from bad to worse until it gets cleared up, but the damage was done at that point.
Yeah, and I know that Donna takes like immediate blame for this. She's like, oh my god, like, I misunderstood. But even when she approached Dom the first time, he's like, I'm not getting involved, instead of saying that's not what happened. And I feel like that's maybe how this could be like so just confusing, where he's just like not participating in the conversation and maybe also like wasn't clear the first time they talked. So the fact that it finally does get cleared up, I don't know if it's better for Donna to just like admit guilt from that point on, but definitely gets confusing. Again, Colin doesn't really push back on this point too much after that.
Colin doesn't push back even when the miscommunication happened, and she kind of says, I apologize for this being. He was like, nope, no, I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's done. It's over. Let's go back to Dom real quick. Dom, this ain't that deep, man. Like, this is more sketchy for you not to want to talk about this than you being like, I want to stay out of it. It's none of my business. Because it does make you look sketchy. Like, if I was there, I'd feel like Dom is being sketchy because maybe Dom lied about what happened to kind of push an agenda himself. So I'd be looking at Dom a little sideways here.
I mean, even at the roundtable when they vote, I believe Dom is the one who's like, I just got to go with the majority. And it's like, Dom, do we want to play the game? Like, are we going to actively play at some point?
Yeah, he was on Game of Homes, not Game of Thrones. There's no ladders. There's no chaos where he's from. It's a lot easier than this, clearly, because he's like, I'm just riding the wave that I'm on. Like, whatever everyone says, I'm down. A la Turner from BB24. Who'd you vote for? All right, I want to put that person down. Okay.
And I think that he's seeing other people who are actively playing get like in a lot of trouble, and maybe he's trying to avoid that. But when the trouble is brought to you, I do think that you have to like dispel that trouble rather than just trying to ignore it and will it away.
Yeah, if my name's in the middle of anything, I want it to be as clear as possible what the situation was and explain it as calmly and coolly, especially if I'm not involved and I'm like the third party to whatever this is. And no one's going to look at me sideways. This is the the trial of Colin. You are being called to the stand. You're not being incriminated for anything. Is all good. Just clear it up.
There is a world in which Dom before it gets cleared up is like, I don't want to deal with this, I don't want to deal with this, and walks away. And then people are like, is Dom the one lying? Like, did this
Right.
Colin not actually say this, and Dom never like just made that up for no reason? Should we be suspicious of Dom? Should we vote out Dom tonight? Like, there is that world, so you have to be actively playing.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I was like, if I was there, I would have been looking at Dom sideways after this, not Donna, not Colin, because I think something that Kuzi brings up very nicely later on that I will get to the roundtable in a second, but this is something that Annabelle brought up on Traitors 2 as well, Traitors AU season 2, where if someone's doing the most or in the spotlight so heavily in the beginning, there's almost no chance they're a traitor, because a traitor is gonna, even if they're being sloppy, they're gonna try so hard to maintain all the emotion and like be calm or you know, divert attention in a way. But if you're in the spotlight like this, there's no way. You're just sloppy. You're just bad. Like, you're not bad in the game. You're just bad at the game.
Yeah, and most faithfuls, I would say, should probably not also want to be in the spotlight unless you are just like going all in on not getting murdered, but which I think Fierce might be doing a little bit. But in general, I think that it still holds true. I don't think the meta has developed so much so that people that are super messy are now likely to be traitors all of the sudden. I feel like it's usually a sign of innocence instead.
Yeah, I would like to say I'm looking forward to Fierce being a narrator moving forward for as long as the season will allow her to stay, because my God, so much fun. What I noticed, what stood out to me, Melissa A got quite a bit of narrator content as well, which stood out to me because I feel like I didn't really see Melissa involved in the game as heavily, but I was getting a lot of Melissa confessional. So
yeah, I wonder what that can mean. I mean, she wasn't brought up as a target for murder, so I don't think that we are likely to just like, all right, well, let's bring her up and then get her out of here next time. I don't think that's happening. So I don't know if she's going to play into a couple episodes from now, or if we should be flagging this for the future. That's interesting.
yeah, we'll keep it on. We'll bookmark it for later. Let's get to the roundtable, shall we? Let's get to the true meat and potatoes of this session. Our first ever roundtable on the season. So obviously, like you would have predicted at this point, it's the Colin show. Okay. Specifically, move over Dom and Colin. It's the Donna and Colin network. And it's these two versing at the roundtable. So Colin immediately mentions, you know, I know I've had a target on me for some reason. And whether it was intentional or unintentional, Donna, you put a huge target on me. You put an absolute huge target on me. And then Donna's like, can I ask you a question? He's like, yeah. Yesterday, you mentioned my name had come up. Why would you want to save my ass when you don't even know me? To be nice?
Yeah. Like, I love that everyone pushes back on this. And this is where I actually thought that things were looking bad for Donna early in the roundtable. I didn't know if she was going to be, you know, look, I love the roundtable. I think it's actually a very, very fun mechanic that most other shows don't have, a forced house meeting, essentially.
Yeah.
And Donna did not seem to be thriving in this environment. And so I really thought that she could be tripping herself up here.
Hey, there's something about psychics, psychic mediums, and traitors and roundtables. They just don't gel well together. It doesn't work.
Yeah,
it's not a
they're
matchup meant to be.
Talking to the dead, not to people. They don't have the people skills anymore.
Exactly. I think that Colin did well to kick it off here. I really do. I think where things go sideways for Colin, because Kuzi also again added the, you know, why as a traitor would he do that? That makes no sense to me. And Donna's like, well, I'm gullible, so what if this is a play? I think what ends up being the nail in Colin's coffin is that the whole conversation about deserving the money comes up again. And I think you're going to have a hard time convincing people to stay, because again, we don't know the economic status of anybody here on this cast, but they know what their economic status is. And if they're like, if people would think this is a lot, they might get, nope, I'm not even going to let that mentality stick. I can't have that happen. So I think really that's what was the final nail.
Yeah, I think that you saw people very quickly realize that this is no longer about faithful and traitor. This is about how likely is someone to vote me out of this game, exemplified by, let's say, a Kevin who, you know, may or may not have had plenty of success publicly in poker, being like, why does that matter? Why should it matter if someone here has done very well with poker? Or Mary, who's like, it'd be nice if someone like, that he's saying like me for example, could win this. So I think that people were very much coming down on the side of the argument that benefited them. And that's ultimately what did Colin in.
I feel like the debate also of, the additions that we had of, I worked hard. Like, I've worked hard to get what I've got. Am I going to get punished for this? Like, that doesn't make sense. So I feel like that also doesn't help his case either. And he's like, well, I just think it'd be nice if someone was struggling and they won the money. That'd be great. It's like, yeah, that would be great. But again, keep that to yourself, because not everyone's playing the game like that. It's a very righteous way to play the game. And that goes against this game of lying, manipulating, backstabbing. There are no ethics here. I'm not going to be like, hey, you brought down your bus license. Okay, everyone bring down your tax forms next round table. Let's see what everyone's at monthly so we can talk financially, so we can discuss this. Like, that's not going to fly here.
And people are using it as a reason as to why, like, Colin may have killed Erica. Like, oh, he doesn't want to see her win because she's publicly won money, and so he killed her in the first murder. It gets a little bit of pushback. Like, he's not going to do that in the first murder.
When Rick said that, they were like, whoa, don't say that. Don't do it.
And I get it. Like, you don't need to take that person out in the first murder. You are like trying to win the game, not necessarily trying to stop someone else from winning the game in this first murder. But I mean, I guess if I have a stone and I see two birds ahead of me, let's get them both at the same time. So ultimately, I think that this was very much about like what is best for everyone's games rather than who is actually a traitor with this argument. But I do see how it could be used as further evidence.
This show is fascinating to me. And one of the reasons why I love the Traitors is that when people think someone's a traitor, I would love to know, do they think that this is the leader traitor? Do they think this is the stragglers traitor, or just the sloppy traitor? Like, what is your mentality? Because I think the way they were looking at Colin to be a traitor was he's the leader traitor. He is like the head of the snake. He's clearly like making this plan known. He wants to get rid of people who are either, very well off or, that don't deserve to be here because they've had their time, however you want to do it. But honestly, it all comes down to one thing and one thing only. I think confirmation bias at this point. They had nothing else to go off of. May later, like you said, brought up. Yeah, I think a lot of us have a lot of names that we're thinking of. We just don't want to bring them up because what if the traitors hear their name and then they want to get rid of you? So naturally, Colin or Donna, good for me. I don't have to think twice about it. And then when you weigh the two, Colin's sloppy, but Donna is way more sloppy. So she can way less be the traitor.
And I think it's also, I think that Colin has this one, error, one big kerfuffle that comes up. I think he is much less likely to be involved in something like this moving forward. He even says, like, I'm never doing this again. I'm not getting involved. I think Donna can't help herself. I think Donna's going to be involved and kind of like a house target for a little bit. So I think that having Donna around is beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, and let's really quickly rewind to the thing that caused Rick to say is because you murdered Erica. Rick says, one of the reasons I keep looking at you is because I was watching you in the room at breakfast while people were coming in. When Kevin came in, you had no reaction. And Colin's like, well, I was very vocal that I wanted Erica to be there and not Kevin. He's like, yeah, that's because you murdered her. Of course you knew. He's like, okay, relax. But again, like I said, there were already eyes on him. So anything he did that people wanted to, because he could have cheered and they're like, that seemed over the top. So it's almost like once you're marked, you really are marked. Like you are going to have a tough time shaking that off.
Yeah, I do agree with its complete confirmation bias. I mean, people are going to get their reads and they're going to narrow in on it because you don't want to believe that the people that you're buddying up to are secretly stabbing you in the back. So the one person that you might not be clicking with entirely, look at how they're brushing their hair. Isn't that so suspicious? And look how they entered the room and look how every single thing is going to start to add up to them being a traitor. And so unfortunately for Colin, he just found himself a little bit on the outs, and that compiled over and over.
And I absolutely love, I want to highlight one specific player at this round table who I thought did a phenomenal job. That is Kuzi. Kuzi is a traitor, and Kuzi did a phenomenal job of being subtle with it, but being very clear of saying, I don't think Colin's a traitor. I feel like he wouldn't do this. This is sketchy, but didn't do it too much and wasn't over the top. There were 2 comments that she did sly enough, clearly enough also to indicate that I'm not going to vote out Colin, but I also don't think he's a traitor. So you can't look at me sideways for doing this because I don't think he is.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to like go ahead and point back to ways that like I was not trying to pull the suspicion off of someone else or like go with the easy vote. I was trying to genuinely throw my support behind someone that I had belief in and was trying to help the group without, saying I know who is a traitor here and like who is not for a fact, because I have all of the knowledge in this game. And so I am just openly making these arguments to make myself look better. I think it was good subtlety.
Yeah, we like good subtlety here. We don't want OTT. Over the top is not good for you, and not enough is also not good for you. This was the perfect middle for me. I did enjoy it. Let's look at the votes now, Scally, because we only had 2 people get votes here. We had Donna and we had Colin. Now we can go in order. I don't really have any extra notes for anybody, so feel free to stop down on anybody that you have like a specific note of what they said as they were voting. Rick votes Colin. Also, I want to point this out, actually. It's a Canadian season. I didn't keep track, but a lot of people threw a sorry out there. I'm sorry. It reminded me of that scene from Anchorman 2 with Jim Carrey when he's part of like the Canadian news crew and they're talking threats and then apologizing right after. So I did enjoy that. That was funny to me.
It was very funny. I think that the first person that stood out to me was actually the second person to vote in Mary, where she's like, I absolutely know I'm going to regret this vote. Then like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Like vote for the other person. Like if you want to appear like you're going along with the group, then like don't say this. Or if you don't want to go along with the group, then go ahead and vote how you actually want to vote.
Yeah, and to be clear, I love that we are apologetic. Canadians, we're good. I see Neil in the chat. Sorry about our habits. Sorry for saying sorry. Yeah. So Rick votes Colin. Crystal votes Donna. Mary then votes Colin. May votes Colin. Trayvon, Melissa B vote Colin. Kevin is the one I wrote down. So Kevin votes Colin and says, "You made it clear that you were not interested in talking to me or playing with me." And I feel like the comment about him not reacting to Kevin coming in only confirms that. So Kevin is fully justified, whether he's a traitor or faithful, to get rid of Colin.
Yeah, I don't think that there was any care of what his role actually was in this game. I think Kevin knew this is not someone who is going to work with me moving forward. I don't remember if Colin was involved in those group talks or not, of like, isn't Kevin going around and like trying to work with every single person in this house?
I'm pretty sure he was the driver for that. No pun intended.
The bus driver of that. That makes sense. Threw him right under that bus, didn't you, Colin? So I think that Kevin is known for a little bit. Colin is not willing to work with him and was making it clear like, if you're not willing to work with me, I'll vote for you regardless here.
Yeah, so I'll just point out the people who voted Donna because everyone else voted Colin. So Crystal, Colin, Dr. Nzila, and then we had Gurpyar and Kuzi. 5 people voted Donna. Everyone else voted Colin. Colin is banished. He has to get up on the Circle of Truth, which is what they're calling the basically the reveal spot, and mentions that this shouldn't come as much as a surprise. These things will spread like wildfire. So as soon as your name comes up, you should get worried. I am a faithful. And I don't think he's wrong. No lies detected. I think, especially in the early game, if your name comes up and 2 or 3 people grab onto it, start packing your bags. You're probably going to go unless you can point something else out.
And I'm hoping this is like a good warning to people who were trying to play a more passive game and we get a lot messier of gameplay because Colin says like you better stand up for yourself, and I'm hoping people take that warning.
Yeah, Mary did say I screwed up by going with the mob, and I was like, Mary, then wake up, do something. I'm looking forward to it. Be a part of the chaos, not part of the passiveness, because that is no fun and isn't doing you any good.
And I do think she will. I think that Mary is going to be a fun player here. I think that she has already been, or like very involved in conversations. The only other people that like stuck out to me, I did notice Melissa just completely like mumbled under her breath where no one could even hear her when she was voting.
Yeah, That didn't help, did it?
No. And like for Melissa B, like they even said, before the traitor selection, you were this bright, bubbly personality and you've completely changed. So like get that in check tomorrow. And I don't know if that was supposed to be like a clear indication of like she has not changed. She is still like trying to go under the radar and like, shrink herself in order to not be noticed. But I think Melissa really needs to come out of her shell once again.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, again, you got to find that sweet spot. Don't come in too hard. Don't come in too UTR. You got to find the middle and ride the middle out. So let's now talk about the post roundtable, because we see May talking about, let's face it, we all have other names. We were scared. And then Mike, Magic Mike, as he will be called moving forth. Magic Mike says, I have something I want to say. And I'm quite happy that they used up all their commercial time because they couldn't run in the commercial for this one. Because my immediate quick thought was, whatever you're doing, this was a mistake to do it this way. This is so bad, unnecessary. Did you know, Scally, Mike is not really a magician?
Honestly, a blindside.
Yeah. Psych, let's do a card trick. I'm a magician. What are you doing? Why?
I didn't understand this. I mean, for me, I felt like it was just basically any large amounts of attention that you are drawing to yourself is negative in the Traitors. I don't know if this was a way to be like, this is why I'm on the show. Like, I'm just a fun, goofy personality and like, don't look at anything else I'm doing. But I still think it's too much too soon. And I'm a little worried for Mike after this.
As of until this moment, I've been loving everything I've seen from Mike. The confessionals have been fun. The energy's been good. This was really the moment where I realized, okay, Mike is also going to be on the radar moving forward. And I truly think so, because this might seem like a small thing, but when you grab the attention of the entire room and bring him to silence by saying, I have something I want to say, I'm not really a magician, and they buy it, and then doesn't matter how many seconds later you say psych, they can go to bed that night and be like, Mike really got me. He's really good at lying. You don't want that. Or if it didn't work, they didn't fall for it, and they're like, Mike's doing too much. I don't like that. Both are bad things here. Both are absolutely bad.
Yeah, I believed you, even if just for a second. It was very convincing, is not great. The way that it was edited also came up like he was kind of talk blocking some strategy talk. It's like, all right, we should really try to put things together and talk about how this went. And he's like, no, we're actually going to do a magic trick right now. And none of us are going to we're going to waste our time right now. So I don't know if people are going to be annoyed by that as well.
He then did have a confessional where he talked about how he feels like the Godfather and that they're all on borrowed time in his castle. So Mike might be getting a little cocky because this worked out for them. They murdered Erica, who's a big target or a big threat potentially for them moving forward, and also used that target to successfully banish Colin, which is kind of what they wanted to achieve anyway. It's a good first round. There are many rounds to come, Mike. Do not get cocky on me, because Melissa B's name was out there a night ago. That conversation will come back up. Y'all will end up on the radar, and inevitably some of you will get clipped. You got to play the long game with the Traitors. You got to.
Look, it's a really fun confessional to give. I've always been of the mind of I don't care how dumb I look if I go out one episode later. I want to give the fun confessional. I want to pretend like I'm running everything. That's fine. It's not a good mindset to have, though. You should not actually think this. And I'm a little worried that maybe Mike is buying into his, a little high on his own supply at the moment.
Oh, for sure. And listen, I think confidence is a big asset to have in games like this, because you want to follow your gut, you want to firm your decisions, and if you buy what you're selling, then others will too if you're confident about it. So that's a good thing. If you're buy that you're faithful and you're pretending to be, then that can work out. Moments like this, though, especially when people don't really know each other that well, this could come back. They'll be like, oh, he's a good liar. He must be it. So we'll see. We'll see how it pays off. Let's go over to the Traitors Tower, shall we? And see what our lovely little traitors are planning on doing moving forward. So this was actually interesting to me. And dare I say this, I kind of liked Melissa B's energy in the Traitors Tower.
Say more.
So Melissa B comes in and says, okay, so tomorrow we need to draw names from other people's mouths. We need to do that. We need to, she starts suggesting some people that they could go after. And I really felt like she's got her head on straight now. And I think maybe moving forward can do a good job of being a traitor. The issue, of course, looming is that she's already on shortlist for people. And I don't think that goes away. But if the game started today, I'd feel really good about Melissa B, basically.
My thing is, I think Melissa is a great traitor behind closed doors. As soon as she gets in front of everyone, she freezes up and is like, I don't know what to do. Like, she has all this energy and she can't let any of it out. But as soon as she's behind closed doors and can be herself with the traitors, like, she has a good mind for this. And that's the thing is, I think that they saw that in her when selecting traitors and just had no way to know that she's not the best actor in the world, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like if she was part of the Power Rangers, she should be Alpha. She cannot be one of the Rangers. She has stay in the command center. Like, you're fine here. You're part of the team, but don't leave the room. But I like this. I like that I'm seeing her mind for the game, because I didn't see that initially, especially because most of what we saw was Melissa stumbling around in front of people and getting caught or sussed out. But basically, they end up landing on 3 people as potential targets moving forward. And their plan now is to pivot from what they did last night, which is let's murder and make a huge statement by getting a big name target. This time, they want to get someone who no one would ever think is a traitor. The people they're looking at, I'll bring my mouse over to the screen here. We've got Dr. Nazila, who's being looked at. We've got Trayvon, who's being looked at, and Mickey, who's being looked at. Do you have a preference of which one would be the best move for them of the 3?
Ooh, that's interesting. Now, in cross-referencing, now the reasons why they talked about them is they didn't think that any of them really would be brought up as an option, but also brought up that Dr. Nazila was on the blue team, which was like not great at the mission, and maybe having people focus on the mission would be a nice thing to get them a little more motivated. I did also flag up that Dr. Nazila was also a vote against Donna. And you take her out here and maybe throw a little more sus on Donna going after one of her votes. I don't think it's a terrible move.
And right now, they have every right to think that that could work out, because they worked out with Colin. Might as well work out here. I am very intrigued about the fact that challenge performance could end up mattering this season. If they end up going with Dr. Nazila and it's like, yeah, well, our team lost 3K, so that's not good, and they probably went out. We got to perform well next time. We got to do the most, because I think doing the most can bring out not negative energy, but bad vibes potentially. We did see in Traitors US season 1, to my sorrow, that Reza was very vocal in the challenge and rubbed a couple of people the wrong way, which did result in a bad energy towards him from other people. Maybe something like that ends up happening here, where people get mad or charged up or competitive in the moment, and they say the wrong thing or act a type of way, and people start looking at them. Might be a good thing to keep an eye out for moving forward if they do this.
All for challenges mattering if it means they're going to create drama. If I have to watch a Comp Beast alliance on the Traitors, I'm going to lose my mind. But I think that, the drama could be interesting. And so for that reason, I'm down. But I think the other name that I agree with is I do think that Mickey is going to be someone that's going to be hard to sell as a banishment option. I think it's going to be really hard to make him look very suspicious, unless it's the argument of like, oh, well, you're just so not a traitor that like maybe you are. Like, you just would be such a good pick because no one would ever suspect you. I think that's still probably too hard to sell. And so taking him out here could be an interesting option.
I 100% back that. I feel like for me, Mickey is probably the best option, because A, that's another reality TV person going out, and for Kuzi, it's like, hey, they're taking out all the reality people. This ain't good, B, I think that no one thinks Mickey's a traitor, and I do not think anyone's going to start thinking Mickey's a traitor as of right now. So I feel like getting him out is good, and potentially could help, and who knows, but I think of the 3, you have to bet on it. Who do you think is going to be the one murdered? Because I also think the other factor is, if they are truly considering that they want to get money in the challenges, you don't get rid of Mickey here.
Yeah, so that's the thing. And that's why I'm a little worried for Dr. Nazila here. I'm a little worried here for her. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I feel like of the 3, we've seen the least of Dr. Nazila. I don't even recall if we've had a confessional from Dr. Nazila yet. And if we have, I don't have it in my notes because it's not really been like significant. So I could see that. I feel like Mickey, we still get like we got the one confessional in the challenge where Mickey was like, I think what I've learned is I would like to be cremated. That's what I've thought about in this. I was like, all right, Mickey, keep it to yourself.
Yeah,
I don't need
what a
to.
takeaway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Trayvon also did have the collapse in the first episode. So if we're talking challenges, that's something to consider. But also they did get the money there, so maybe you keep Trayvon and you get rid of Dr. Nazila, then you go Trayvon next.
That is true. I definitely don't feel as locked in as I did in the first episode. That one I felt like was pretty well foreshadowed, where this one I really think it could be any of the three. I think I'd stick with, if I had to throw my chips on someone, I think I'm sticking with Doctor. But I think ultimately it could go any of these three ways and I'll not be shocked.
It'll be interesting because Kuzi's the one who mentioned Trayvon. So if Trayvon goes, I will be like, okay, Kuzi had the heavier hand in the pick here. If Mickey goes, I would say that I would have to give that to Mel B. Mel B pushed it and they just took it. Dr. Nazila would kind of be the team pick of let's target someone who didn't do well in the challenge. And we see how that goes. And then they want tomorrow's goal to be chaos. They want chaos to take over, which is two people who love a bit of chaos on a weekly basis in these games and also on their TV screen. We approve here on the Traitors RHAP Up. We like this plan. Get more of this plan, please.
Even at the expense of your own games, I'm down for chaos. Like, I'm sorry, but if you got to do it. Yeah. And I think Fierce will be down. I think a couple other people will be down. Donna, I'm sure, whether she intends to or not, will be down. So I'm ready for it. I'm ready for chaos. And I think it could make for an interesting banishment.
Yeah, I quickly, before we get to our questions here, so if y'all have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat right now. If you're watching us live, I want to highlight some people that we're not seeing enough from that I want to see. Where's Gurleen? Outside of spilling the drink at breakfast, I feel like we didn't see our girl Gurleen at all. So I'd like to see more from Gurleen. On the flip side, we saw Gurpyar at the round table put out some good information and good speed. I want to see more from him. I'm intrigued by him. I've not seen nearly enough from him.
I agree. Yeah, and I would say that I don't feel like we've gotten enough from Crystal either. That would probably be the third person that I would highlight, but I think we've done a mostly good job of highlighting this cast pretty equally, and I'm just waiting for a few more people to pop up and edit.
I'm very happy to see that it's not just heavy-handed, focusing on like the 7 reality people, and that we are getting a fair shake elsewhere. That makes me happy, and I think also having 2 of the traitors be non-reality people helps that for sure.
And yeah, you would expect like Kuzi being from a reality show and being one of the traitors, we might be just like hit over the head with Kuzi content. And while I would love to be hit over the head with Kuzi content anytime, I don't think that's been the case.
Yeah, I think given the fact that we're getting 42 minutes a week, if you subtract commercials roughly, it's not an easy job to give us a bit of a balance here. So there's the fact that we highlighted 3 out of a cast of 20 is good generally, but I want more from those 3 and Dr. Nazila if Dr. Nazila doesn't get murdered overnight. So give us a little more from everyone else, but I think the standouts from the civilian side, obviously outside of the traitors, is hands down Donna at this point. Easy to see why. And then on the other side, on the reality folks, Kevin did predict he's going to have a quiet time. I want more May. I'm very intrigued by May. As someone who didn't watch MasterChef, who is meeting her for the first time, I want more of her on my screen, please and thank you.
I agree. I think that we've gotten like a decent amount. I think that she will play into things in the future, and so I'm just like giving it time until I really start complaining too much about her lack of screen time. But I am excited for her. She has been great. I think we've gotten enough Rick. Not enough, but like I think we've gotten like a good amount where he has been like a fun, interesting character. I'm excited to get more. But yeah, May is someone that I'm still waiting on it to pay off.
Yeah, and if Dom decides to not play the passive game of I'm just going to do what everyone else wants, I would like to see what Dom is doing. But if Dom's going to continue that trend, I'm fine with the level of Dom you're giving us.
I think there's potential there. I think there is.
So too. Obviously once the game heats up, once they've been to a couple roundtables, their names get brought up. Because I think what has gone against some of them as far as screen time goes is that Colin and Donna have been such a presence of having suspicion that no one else's name is coming up. So once some other names come up, once they can't just point at the 3 people that have been suspicious for like the first 2 days. Then we're gonna cook with fire.
Agreed. I do think that's the case. I think maybe some of these bigger personalities, like sadly, might fall by the wayside as we move on. So I think they'll pop up.
I think so too. The next time on the preview was the laser challenge. Yay. Round of applause. Everyone stand up. So the laser challenge is happening, but we do see the round table. May is talking some on the round table. Gerp says something about Magic Mike. And Kuzi says, I'm just going to keep stirring that pot. So I do think we are about to achieve the chaos prophecy that they laid out at the end of episode 2.
I'm interested. Yeah, I think he says something of like Mike, I'm going to bring up your name or whatever. So I wonder if that is an accusation or if it's, misleading. It would be interesting where we all thought Melissa B was going to be the first traitor to fall. And now all of a sudden Mike's name might come up at a round table.
Imagine from Godfather to the second banished would be such a wild fall. I'd be intrigued to see it.
So I don't think anyone is like incredibly safe. I could that's the thing is I think last week we made a prediction on who will be banished, and I think that pretty much came true. But I don't feel so set in next week. Like could just easy Donna fall back on what we were already thinking, or this could go in any other direction.
Either because the game has begun, obviously with the murder, with the banishment. I thought this was a fun episode. I had a good time. But obviously Donna going out next week would be like the easy outcome / we saw it coming, so maybe the episode doesn't hit as hard. But if it's anybody else, the game has begun, because Donna sus will stay Donna sus. Like Donna's going to continue to get sus moving forward. So if she stays, at least listen, just keep her one more episode. Okay. Just keep her one more episode. Please and thank you. All right, Scal, we have a couple questions to go through here if you're ready to answer some.
I'm so ready.
Okay, well, this one comes from Darlene, who is maybe running a prediction. Is Rick going to be in the running for most wrong faithful this season? Obviously, Rick went all in on the Colin sus, so much so that he, said it with chest, even accused him of murdering Erica outright at the round table. Where do you see Rick going from here? Is he going to be the most wrong faithful of the season?
I can see it, unfortunately, for him. I feel like he's coming in with a lot of energy. And so that's the thing is like to be the most wrong faithful, you have to be coming in with energy because you'd be willing to put theories out there, to like be talking to people a lot. And so I think that Rick is, giving me a little bit of the golden retriever energy where he's just like excited, happy to be there. And I think that people might prey on that. So I think that he is going to be a very fun character, but maybe not a very correct character all the time.
I'm just so happy that he's playing and is active. I'm very keen on that. I could have seen a world where Rick wasn't doing as much, so I'm very happy for that. Also, when Rick is inevitably the host of Ridiculousness Canada, remember where that was prophesized, okay? Rick Deerdeck. Okay. Scally, time for us to put ourselves in the traitor's shoes with this question from Up and Adam, who says, what's the best strategy for these traitors when eliminating? Does punishing the money losers ever make sense? Which obviously I'm assuming money losers being the ones who did the poorest in the challenge and we didn't get the 3K from.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you definitely don't want to set that as a precedent, because then all of a sudden when like Mike, Melissa B, and Kuzi end up on a team that loses a bunch of money and none of them go home, I think that's going to be pretty suspicious if you set that as a precedent moving forward. So they're already 2 members out of 4 on that team. So I think that maybe it's like, all right, but why Dr. Nazila, if that's ultimately the reason that people fall back into her going home? So I don't think it's a good precedent to set necessarily, but if it, again, 2 birds, 1 stone, that's okay.
Yeah. I think that the ideal strategy as a traitor for murdering, number 1 priority should be let there not be a pattern. Because if they can't connect a pattern, they cannot connect any information together. So I love this premise of we got rid of a huge statement name. We're going to go for someone that's very under the radar and unexpected. I love that because you can't pin anything on that, really. I love what you said about if Dr. Nazila does get picked, they can look at voting and be like, well, 5 people voted for Donna, and she was one of them. So Donna might be bad. I think that's a good way to go about it if they're going to make conclusions out of that. But ultimately, you want to always keep them guessing on who it could be and not have it be crystal clear. Additionally, I don't think it hurts if your names come up once or twice from somebody, but they've not like full blown publicly push you at the round table. Get rid of them before that gets bad as well.
Yeah, it's hard because you have to like look at what people's motivations are in playing the game. I mean, we've talked about, are they trying to go after traitors? Are they trying to go after people who they're not close with? So you have to look at all of that. Ultimately, I'm really like base level looking at who is very unlikely to get voted out of banishment because they can't be taken out any other way unless I murder them. So that is who I'm going to be eyeing mostly. But, you know, there are many other factors that are then going into it beyond.
Yeah. One more question here from Darlene, who says, do you have a sense yet of how the Canadian faithfuls compare to some of the other franchises? I'm feeling a bit of the UK vibes in brackets, maybe because the Canadian celebs are more like normies. Well, I don't think they're more like normies to the Canadians. I think they might seem that way to us. I mean, that's how I felt watching New Zealand, for example. But to answer this question, I would say that it's still tough to see. I feel like there was so much Colin conversation that it would have been hard not to look at him anyway. And clearly some people are speaking with a lot more conviction a la Rick, and then some people are just going, just give me the name, like Dom. So it's still too soon to tell.
I think if I had to compare them to another cast, maybe like AU1, where they're not quite at like UK levels of chaos, but I think the potential is there, where people are currently playing a little cautiously, but I think they're just like dying to be messy. And so I'm hoping that we get that.
Because I'll tell you this for free. If we had a banishment last week and Melissa B was gone because her name was coming up a lot, I would have been ready to say, yeah, this is going to be a very strong batch of faithfuls, because literally 3-4 of them figured out Melissa B out the gate and are probably still looking at Melissa B moving forward. So you know what I'd be into, Scally? If the people that brought up Melissa B's name are now schmoozing Melissa B to keep safe.
See,
instead of sussing her.
The thing, it's a strategy that is well documented. In case people don't watch many other Traitors international versions, if you know that a traitor is likely a traitor, it would be nice to cozy up to that person so you don't get murdered. Can even keep them around for later in the game so that you can just vote them out when you need to. And I don't yet feel like people are doing that with Melissa B. As you talked about, people are going to be looking at like, who is the lead traitor, who's the messy traitor, who is this. I don't think people are looking at Melissa B as the lead traitor, even if they are very sure she is a traitor, just yet, at least.
Yeah, no, and I think ultimately when it comes down to it, do you have enough people to convince to vote out somebody? Because that's, I think, the hardest part of being a faithful. Because obviously, being a traitor is probably the easier job of the two, easy to say. Being a faithful is tough because not only do you have to survive murders, you have to also convince your fellow faithfuls and the traitors at the table that you're good so that you don't get banished. And also, if you figure someone out, you have to have the social structure to go and get those votes to get rid of that person, which is not easy. You can have all the information in the world, and if you're not believed or you can't find the 6-7 people needed, you might as well not say anything, because you will get killed. So you shouldn't do that. So it is a very tough tightrope to walk, which is why I will always give the faithful their kudos, because I think it's so easy to look like a stupid faithful. I really do. It's a lot easier than looking like a dumb traitor, let me tell you.
Yeah, I think that, like, sure, there are some people on a cast where being a traitor is going to be like immediately disqualifying because they're a bad actor, they're a bad liar, whatever the case may be. But for the vast majority of people, I think being the traitor is going to be the better move in terms of long-term success. You know, at least in terms of making it deep into the game. So being a faithful, I do give them a lot of credit that even if they are making some mistakes, like I would make just as many, if not many more, and made many grander mistakes than they are making. So I will always give them the benefit of the doubt, unless I want to have fun and make fun of them a little bit.
Yeah. One last question before we head on out and wrap things up here from Gavin. Do you think we'll be seeing people not trying to target traitors early this season, but rather people who are inconvenient? We've already heard tell of not saying names, less traitors here. Great question. Kind of goes into what we were saying earlier, but I want to cite Kevin as the main one here. Kevin votes Colin fully because Colin is someone who's not going to work with him and not going to talk to him. Doesn't matter whether you're good or bad if you're not going to listen to me or not going to be willing to vote with me. And if you're going to end up voting against me because you're for some reason suspicious of me, it's better for you to be gone. Because I do think here's like the best strategy you can have as a faithful. If you figure out a traitor, keep them close, marinate them, make them think you're in their back pocket. That way you might get recruited, which could be fun, which could be an easier avenue. And just get rid of people who either don't work with you or you don't gel with. Because if you can get to like the final 5 with the traitor you figured out and with people who will vote with you, my friend, you're going to win as a faithful and life's good.
Yeah, I do think that it's going to depend on the person, obviously, that we're talking about.
100%.
Kevin, as you said, I think if he finds out Kuzi is a faithful next week, I don't think he targets her anytime soon. I think he's going with her pretty deep, regardless.
If he knows she's a traitor, they're good. He's not gonna say anything.
And I think the same would have been true, and vice versa. If Kuzi had found out Kevin was a traitor, I think that she is, of the same mindset of like, we need to get deep regardless, and I will use every piece on the board, not just the pieces that also happen to be having the same assigned role as me at the beginning. Now, do I think the most of this cast is going to follow that same logic? No. I think that most of them are going to be, taking shots in the dark, really like absolutely targeting who they're most suspicious of, and that's going to lead to mess.
Which is why I'm happy that we get people who don't know the game. Obviously, I'm very happy when I see people who say, I've watched like all the international versions, or even I've watched last season. I'm like, good, you have the game foundation. That's good to know. But I like that not everyone's going to be super strategic, because without that, you're not getting the chaotic round table. You're not getting the he said, she said conversation at the bar. You're not getting I'm swearing on my kids. I don't even know if that's allowed, but I don't care. You need all that to make it good popcorn, especially with a challenge shoved in there. We have to wring out every bit of mess and drama you can from the other bits of footage we get. So I like a good half and half. Give me some strategic, some blindfolded, and let's have fun.
Yeah, I do think that in general, a casual Traitors fan is probably going to be the best casting, where it's like, I know the structure of the game and how to play it, but I haven't figured out all the intricacies of it and how to game the system. So I think that's ultimately going to be the best. What I don't want is where we get to a point where everyone is like so knowledgeable about it and they all are just trying to keep their traitor in, and then none of that is reflected in the edit and we're being lied to. So that's what
the edit just like, these 3 traitors just walked everyone to the end and won. It's like, no, every person wanted to bring them to the end for XYZ reason. But yeah, that wouldn't translate, I don't think. I think I agree with you. I don't want to see that. I think we need to keep it. You need to keep it a little half and half still. Anyway.
Yeah, I like people. We're getting early like reality TV vibes. People are figuring out the game, and that's still fun.
Yeah. And we love it. And we'll be here next week to talk about it all for episode 3. Just a reminder, once again, we will be conducting exit interviews this season, and we're interviewing both Erica and Colin tomorrow. So if you have any questions for either of them, you already know where to find us on Twitter at Pooyaism, at Brian_Scally, to my right over here. And in the Patreon group, if you would like to leave it over there as well, go for it. Feel free to do so. Scally, let the people know. What are the other projects you're working on at the moment?
Ooh, anything I'm doing will be on Twitter at Brian_Scally, as you said, and I'll also be on Twitch at twitch.tv/bscally. I am going to be talking about the rest of the Devil's Plan with Chappelle, still just getting all the pieces on that together, but that should be out soon, so people should look forward to that. Also talking about this season of the Challenge USA, which is finishing up pretty soon over on the Dom and Colin podcast, so people should check that out as well. And then, like I said, anything else will be on Twitter.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Scally. Thank you. Also, before I get into what I've got going on, folks, if you could please go ahead and leave a rating and review over on robbinswebsite.com/traitors, TRAITORS. This, again, like I said last week, this feed is still in its infancy. It's been live for 3 months or so, 4 months. So any ratings and reviews help big time. They help us get discovered by other people, and also it gives us a good bit of feedback, what you like, what you don't like. 5 stars are always appreciated and encouraged, but not necessary. Go with your heart. Tell us what you really feel. Of course, y'all can also find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Pooya. That's where I am when I'm not streaming. When I'm not podcasting, I'm streaming. So come through, say hi, I would appreciate it. I've got a lot of other podcasts going on right now. I've got 2 90-day seasons going back to back. One is premiering this season. I've got Kirsten McInnes coming on with me to kick off the premiere for that season. And then I've got the lovely Sasha Joseph to catch up with last week's The Other Way and this week's The Other Way. I did bring the Masked Magnets in for this one, so it should be a good bit of fun. And obviously, Masked Singer is going on right now. Catch that weird show with Liana and I. We have a fun time on the podcast, but the show can be just all right. It's the podcast that counts more so. And obviously, live feed updates. Big Brother 25 still happening. So while that's happening, Friday morning live feed update. When there's not construction outside my window, I am there ready to go. And I overslept once, so no need to talk about that. But I appreciate y'all being here with us. Thank you for joining us. Hope you had a fun time. We'll catch you all next week. But from myself and Scally over here in Traitors Towers, we say good night, take care, and cry into your millions when you can. Bye.